Welcome to this week's episode of Future Fridays, where we chat about future tech headlines from the week. I'm your host, Wiz, and you can find me on Twitter at WizLikeWizard. Today, we've got three lovely guests who will go around and each give a short 280-character intro. And we also have Yael, who's a cartoonist, who will be live doodling with us for fun. And you can find her on Instagram at Yaelisms. So, Nicky, we'll start with you. Do you want to go ahead and give a short 280-character intro?
Sure. Hi, guys. I'm Nicky, Kamra. I work at a firm called Streamlined Ventures here in San Francisco. We're an early stage venture capital fund investing in applied AI and data science.
Awesome. Jordan, you want to go next?
Hey, I'm Jordan Menashy. I'm co-founder and CEO of Ready. We are an early stage startup building a calendar for teams that makes great meetings effortless.
And finally, Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Tollemache, and I am a stand-up comic living in New York, and I travel the country, or I used to perform stand-up.
Hopefully soon again as well.
Yeah, soon again.
Awesome. So before we jump in, all of the headlines that we're going to discuss today come from a newsletter I work on called This Week in Creative Tech. Each week we share about 30 headlines from the week. Anyone watching today can sign up at bit.ly/join Future Fridays. So we're going to kick today off with a game. This is real or fake. We've got three headlines here, two of which are real and one of which is fake. Your job is to guess which one is fake. So I'm going to go ahead and read them all out, and then we'll do a rock, paper, scissors style shoot of what you think the fake one is. There's going to be a really awesome prize at the end for whoever wins the three games. This round is going to be worth 5 points total. So first headline here is VR program developed to treat dogs for separation anxiety as we return to work. Second one is Terminator-like liquid metal is developed by Chinese researchers. And the final headline is corpse detecting robots will use AI to recover bodies from the Korean War. So we'll go ahead and we'll do rock, paper, scissors, and then just shoot whichever one of the three you think is the fake one. So hands up when you're ready. We'll do this together. Rock, paper, scissors, headline. 2, 2, and 1. Cool. So the fake headline is the first one, which is VR developed to treat dogs for separation anxiety. Nicky, that is 5 points for you.
Oh my God.
I thought that was the fake one, but it is so obviously fake that I thought that for sure it's the real one.
I feel like that's like a perfect opportunity. My dog's been following me around everywhere. Someone needs to develop this.
Red dogs, I guess, aren't having as much trauma as we think they do. So hopefully we don't get separation anxiety.
Nice. All right, we'll move on to the first headline today. So the first headline is Virgin Galactic is partnering with NASA to develop supersonic point-to-point air travel. So what this headline is about is basically Virgin Galactic's been working on point-to-point high-speed travel, which was originally first popularized by SpaceX for their latest project called Starship. The idea is that these new types of aircrafts, which take off from traditional runways and land on traditional runways, will just be able to travel at very high speeds, either by going super high up into the atmosphere or actually into Earth's orbit. In the higher atmosphere, the atmosphere is way thinner, so there's less friction and air resistance, which just allows the ships to go faster. And then in orbit, same idea. For example, the International Space Station actually does a full orbit around Earth every 90 minutes, which is crazy. According to SpaceX, a trip from NYC to Shanghai using Starship would take only 40 minutes compared to the 16 hours it takes today. So incredibly fast. Virgin hasn't really talked about trip times yet for other trips, but they say that their top speed for their ship is going to be basically 4,000 kilometers per hour compared to a Boeing 747, which maxes out at only 988 kilometers. So much, 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 much faster. So question to you all, is this what the future of travel will look like, or is this just privileged dreams of the super rich?
I feel like it's privileged dreams of the super rich. I don't know. I'd like to get travel where I could go 45 minutes from Astoria, Queens to downtown Manhattan. Like that would be nice. And I'd also like fast travel to go through the TSA line. Like I don't mind doing a 16-hour flight to Shanghai. But it sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take a slightly different angle on this and say that first of all, as an early stage startup, I'm especially qualified to talk about vaporware, and this feels like vaporware to me. I think that Virgin is going out of business, and they're just like grasping on something to like prop up some stock values, because they can't even say how fast it is. They're like, it's just going to go to space and then it's going to come back. It's going to be faster, like probably 4 times faster. So I think it's a pipe dream.
It is certainly a little hard to think about going from New York to Shanghai in 40 minutes when we can't leave our homes right now. Like conceptualizing travel at all, let alone like at hyperspeed, is challenging right now. I mean, maybe at some point in the future, but I feel like they've been talking about super high speed flights for a really long time. Hard to say if when it'll be available to anyone, let alone like to the masses.
Do you all think that this is something the masses would even want? Sarah and I talked briefly about how we both actually like longer flights. It's like a nice opportunity to like disconnect.
Yeah, I like watching 8 movies and not feeling bad about it.
I'm able to do that at home somehow. I don't know.
Especially like Corona, you just basically described the whole like lockdown in a nutshell. It's like being on an airplane. Just don't feel bad about watching movies for 16 hours straight.
Yeah.
Let's ignore the last 2 months and pretend that the world is back to air travel. I mean, we've all flown a lot. Is this something that you could see a lot of people wanting, or is this going to be limited to business travelers that are going from Cupertino to China, many times a month?
Yeah, I mean, I think if anything is more convenient and faster and, and/or cheaper, I think people are more likely to do it. I don't know the numbers, but I think, the amount of air travel that, has increased like in places like Europe since things like EasyJet and Ryanair have, gone up way up. Because it's faster than driving, it's faster than trains, and it's cheap and convenient. So I'm sure a lot of people who didn't think they'd fly from London to Paris regularly do it all the time now because they can. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. All skepticism aside, if this was available, there's definitely going to be a market for it. You can imagine. First of all, every super rich person is going to be like, yeah, clearly I'm just going to pay $10,000-$20,000 a ticket, whatever it's going to be, because for them that's nothing. I think that, of course, you start there, you create enough volume, and hopefully that price comes down. And if it's available to me at my extremely modest price point, then I would 100% option that over a 16-hour flight. As much as I like watching movies
on your tiny airplane screen.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean,
Awesome.
You could go to Shanghai for the day from New York. That's wild. That's so cool.
That sounds pretty fun. Great, we'll move on to our first cartoon. Cartoonist, you got something funny for us?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see.
You got a funny Zoom background too.
Thank you. Okay, so inspired by what Sarah was saying, I think it's just another excuse to feel bad about the flying you're not doing. Then the second one that my mind went to.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
And a
That's
positive outlook. Feels like this is going to be really nice.
That's good. Yeah,
That's good.
I can relate to that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well done.
All right, we'll move on to second headline for today. So this next headline is self-sustaining 3D printed houses generate their own water and electricity. So this is a Nevada-based company called House.me, and they've created a small, high-tech prefab house that can operate entirely off the grid. These houses produce their own power, water, and even have full air quality protection and filtering. And they also come with a zombie-proof lifetime warranty. Other nice features include things like smart lighting, automatic shades, smart thermostat, solar panels, and even a large hidden projector screen. Honestly, sounds nicer than my New York apartment. There's 3 different versions of the house. The most expensive one costs $1 million, and the cheapest one costs $200,000. So question to you all, is this another example of a category of privileged goods for super rich people? Or, I mean, we've seen in other industries where new categories emerge and it's a high-end product that starts and then the category evolves to the other end of the spectrum. So perfect example is electric cars, right? Tesla started with a very expensive model that was only available to a few, and now they've got the Model 3 that's available to a lot more people. What do you all think?
So I'm like genuinely obsessed with this space. Actually dabbled in potentially my startup being one of these modular construction companies, and then chickened out and decided to build a calendar instead. But so first of all, I do think that these kind of prefab models, and there's different options. There's you can have it kind of, it's panelized where they slap it together like Lego, or I believe in this case it's volumetric, like where they ship it on a flatbed truck and like plop it down.
Yeah.
And it kind of has to be the future. If you think a lot of like the dynamics around the cost of building, around that, there's actually just not enough now kind of labor to build in kind of the most developed cities. And so, the cost just keeps going up. And so we're being forced this direction no matter what. And yeah, I like this concept. I think this is more in the category of like toys for super rich, because I don't actually think it's solving the real housing problems that we're facing today, which is, the cost of housing in cities. Now, post-pandemic, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm a huge believer in the space, and stuff like this just gets me so excited.
Yeah, I'm just impressed that when anything is 3D printed, because I still have problems printing off my printer at home. So I'm just like, I don't know how we did this. It looks like a really fancy double wide trailer, which I think is great to have these as trailer parks, but with the price range, I don't think that's going to happen, nor do I think people that live in trailer parks are into being sustainable. But I think it could be a really cool Airbnb.
Yeah, I think the price point for the space is quite steep, but hopefully over time that goes down. And I totally agree. I could see, going to like a hotel somewhere that's a bunch of these kind of houses that are sustainable. Like, I think the hospitality angle would be maybe one of the good first use cases.
Jordan, you talked about sort of prefab houses like this being able to serve a more important need of housing crisis in cities that need more low-income housing. I mean, this is cool, and $1 million and all the nice touches are fun. What does sort of the other version of that look like on the other end of the spectrum, where it's actually net positive to the world?
Yeah. So, well, they're obviously exploring this in all different kind of cities. Like, there's examples. I mean, China, where they like built an entire skyscraper in some ridiculous amount of time, like 30 days. And so where it plays a role is in, you can actually, you imagine, why are people on scaffoldings like swinging hammers out in the elements, when we have things like factories that have been around for a very long time, and can we actually produce components or even the whole unit in some cases in this factory in a controlled environment, and as a result be able to do things like ensure consistency, you reduce the costs. And then there's a whole bunch of challenges around that. It's like, okay, then you have to have the shipping elements built into it. And so it's a very complicated problem, but the promise is real. And, some of the areas where it's really effective is that it's able to dramatically shrink the time it takes to actually build. And so for certain industries like, hotels or rental buildings where, the faster you can build that, the sooner you can actually start, renting it out and monetizing it. That's where it's kind of found its initial niche. And so I just think over time, we just need scale. We need the demand to kind of, start getting into different verticals. And then out of that, we can start having all the supply chains kind of move in such a way that the cost goes down. And what this is squeezing ultimately is the costs per square foot for the construction. And so it's not going to answer the land cost issue, but in that case, they're also figuring out how to just continually build up with these models as well. So that's kind of, it's going to have to be this perfect storm of events to really get to that critical mass where I think we see this being kind of the norm, but it's already finding its place in specific sectors. And absolutely, it will be a net benefit.
There's been a lot of chat on Twitter lately about people leaving big cities like New York and San Francisco for more remote locations. Is this sort of a possible direction into that future as well, where we all go back to the days of communes, except instead of having to, set them up however they did, we're able to just drop in these like really awesome self-contained units?
I mean, I do feel like these would make really great second homes for people that can afford it. Like, I like that you can drop it anywhere. I mean, I really like prefabricated houses, so I think this is really impressive, but it is just like the price range. I feel like for the everyday person, it's going to be pretty hard.
Second home for your private island.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we'll move on to the next game. So this one is worth 10 points, which Jordan and Sarah gives you a chance to pass Nicky. So this is multiple choice. We've got a headline here with a blank, and then we've got 3 options below, A, B, and C. 2 of them are fake, and 1 of them is real. Your job is to write down which of these 3 you think completes the headline. So the headline is, relive every episode of The Office, only recreated in A, Fortnite, B, virtual reality, or C, Slack. So go ahead and write your answers down, and then when you're ready, just give a thumbs up to the screen, and we'll all show them to the screen. Nicky, that was quick. You've gone in for 10 more points.
I kind of feel like they're going to do all of these, all 3 options, People love The Office.
Sarah, you ready as well?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, everyone show your answers to the screen then.
Oh, I didn't do it big enough. Sorry.
Virtual reality, Fortnite, and Slack. Okay, so the correct answer is Slack. So 10 points to Nicky, which gives her 15 points total.
Wow.
So
no coming back now.
There's one more round.
I'm signing off now. I'm just here for the prize.
Can I ask, what is Slack? I'm unaware of this. The other 2 I know.
It's probably best that you don't learn.
Okay.
It's not worth it. It's like,
Slack
do you want to be
like,
interrupted all day while you're trying to get anything done? That's what Slack is. It's instant messaging. Yeah, so go ahead.
Okay, I'm messaging.
I'm going to take over here, Sam. Yeah.
No, it's fine. Messaging for companies is what it is. It's like internal corporate iMessages, essentially, and it's known to be an incredible distraction machine. No offense to Slack. So the correct answer is Slack. This is actually a New York creative agency called Mischief that created an unofficial version of The Office that moved the entire series to Slack. So basically, you can join these various different channels and see episodes play out over Slack. The various characters chatting back and forth, which is actually sounds quite fun. There's open channels like Water Cooler and Smoke Break that allow audience members to jump in and chat about what's going on as well. The other channels are off limits though, and it's just the cast going through the lines of each episode. Episodes are currently running every day from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time on Slack, if any of you want to check them out.
That's really cool.
Yeah, we'll move on to the last headline of the day. So this one is, Mikaela, the Uncanny CGI virtual influencer, signs with CAA. So little Mikaela is a digital avatar and music artist, and she is CAA's first virtual client. CAA is one of the largest talent management agencies in the world, based out of Los Angeles. This CGI-generated teen robot is the invention of a startup called Brud, which positions herself as a Gen Z tastemaker. She's already landed partnerships with companies like Samsung, Prada, Calvin Klein, and YouTube. Miquela launched on Instagram in 2016 without any explanation and very quickly grew to 2.2 million followers, which is 2.2 million more than I have. And now an additional 550,000 on TikTok. The idea is that CA will work with her to get more of those sponsorship opportunities, TV, film, commercial endorsements, those sort of things. So question to you all, how do you see virtual influencers changing entertainment? Will this affect how real artists operate in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. I think, you know, obviously there's a little bit of a novelty effect, but I think there's some places that, you know, virtual influencers definitely have a role. You know, I think like modeling, for example, you know, where obviously there's the celebrity angle and, you know, I'll come back to that, but, you know, if you look at catalogs or maybe advertisements where it's less about the person and more about, you know, having a body or like a generic face, could definitely see that happening in certain areas. I actually, before working at Streamlined, worked at a startup called Skillshare, which basically is an online learning platform where a lot of kind of like micro influencers in design and photography teach classes. You know, I definitely think there's something about this like rise of influencer on social media where, you know, it's about, there's an aspect of aspiration that you can attain to and realism. And so I think you see that with like mommy blogs, right? Where it's like, you might follow this blogger who, you know, maybe has it a little bit more together than you, but also has, you know, the same problems as you and the same aspect. And that's kind of why you follow them. And I think, you know, that there's, in terms of like, how will this affect, you know, other influencers or other artists? Like, I do think there's an aspect of realness that is attractive to why we like celebrities. I know if you remember, like People magazine used to have you know, celebrities, they're just like us, they spill their coffee, they, you know, and so I do think there is that psychology of being a real person, you know, of them making mistakes, of them being something that you could also be, that is going to be attractive, that maybe virtual influencers won't be able to attain, but maybe they will, and maybe there's, you know, just different, or maybe there's just different places for both. Yeah.
I mean, I'm for anything that takes away jobs from influencers, so I think this is pretty cool. I'm sure they'll be fine going back to their, you know, rich parents. But I think, I don't know, I find it very fascinating. Like, I mean, they already, with Instagram, how they collect all this data and they know exactly what targeted ads, that you could just have all this data and create the most influential person for individuals. And I feel like, I mean, I would be really intrigued to see what influencer they came up for me to get me to buy a lifestyle or products. Like, I don't know. It'd be really interesting. I think I'm into it. It sounds a really neat idea. And they nailed it on this girl for Gen Z and what she, like, what you like in an influencer. I feel like she has everything.
Yeah, she has a gold bust of herself that
I know.
As a necklace. Like,
I want that.
Of myself. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like in reality, this has been happening, you know, for a very long time. You have all these virtual, especially for children, right? All these virtual stars, right? Everything from, you know, my kid watched Paw Patrol. Back in the day, we had like the Chipmunks. You know, you have Barney. You know, so it's not you know, unfathomable that we're going to keep, you know, doing that even gorillas for adults, like, you know, you can go see the gorillas in concert. And so I don't see why this won't, you know, catch on. And I think it might eat into a share of, you know, like Nicky brought up a great point, like, we love influencers because, you know, there's people we try to aspire to be like in some way, or look up to, or, you know, just want to laugh at. But, you know, there's that real factor. But then there's also these folks that are kind of fake, and you know, they're just there to kind of whatever, model something or whatever it is, and there's not really that connection. And I don't see why in that case they're going to really have a competitive edge over something that's like, you know, basically completely fine-tuned to be that for a specific audience. So yeah, I think it makes sense, and I'm curious to see how it plays out.
Speaking of specific audiences, we kind of joked how she's very much set up for Gen Z. I mean, she just got signed by CAA and has like a ton of these large partnerships. It seems like there is a world where we see more of these type of virtual influencers. Do you all see the types of virtual influencers also then expanding to different audiences? Like, will there be one for like a millennial like me who's now living in Florida? Or is it going to be limited to like a Gen Z audience?
I feel like Nikki brought up a good point of like, I'm sure there'll probably be like a fake mommy blogger where she's kind of a mess, but then she also has really great things to promote that helps her life get organized, and that she's just like everybody else. Like, even with this girl, I find her, she seems slightly approachable, I think. It's like amazing that they know how to do that balance. I think it's so fascinating.
You would want to hang out with her in Astoria?
Well, I don't think she'd want to hang out with me. I think I would be more like what mommy bloggers are. Like, that would be even though I don't have kids, I just feel like when I see TikTok, that's who's all on my For You page. So I probably wouldn't have her as my virtual influencer.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, please go ahead.
there's something of a novelty effect, but it's like, is Mikaela getting signed because she's the first one to have this kind of presence? But maybe I bet people said that in 2005 about mommy bloggers too. So I don't know. It's weird to think about the future of like synthetic people and voice and all of these things today. So we'll see how it plays out.
Cool. Jordan, do you have something you wanted to add? We're going to move on to a cartoon if not.
It was nothing actually useful to share, so I'll skip.
All right, cartoonist, what do you got for us?
I do have some stuff. See my screen. Cool. Oh, I think you'll see some of my true feelings about all this.
That's so good.
Oh, it's too good.
And lastly,
You take selfies.
yeah, I just think it's kind of wild that like you give someone the task of making someone that is unreal and can do all these things that humans can't do, and what do you make her do? Just like dumb things that humans do.
Oof.
Well said.
Fighting and great. All right, we will move on to the final game of the day. This one is worth 15 points, which Sarah and Jordan gives you a chance to tie with Nikki, or Nikki allows you to win handily. So this last game is fill in the blank. So we've got a real future tech headline here with one of the words missing. I'll read it out, and the job for you all is to write down what you think the correct answer is. 15 points for the right answer, or 10 points for anything that's outrageously funny. So spot the blank, now used in Singapore to implement social distancing in parks. So go ahead and write your answers down, and then just give me the thumbs up when you're ready, and we'll all show our answers to the screen. I think Jordan's going the outrageously funny route.
I think you're showing us your notes, unless we're supposed to be seeing that.
Oh, you're looking at my notes?
I think so.
Well, that kind of ruins
I
the
don't know
game.
if that round is a little
There we go.
Did you guys all see that? I mean, Jordan
Yeah,
has
Really
that.
confused.
I think we all got the answer.
Thanks for the freebie.
Oh Lord. Well, that is embarrassing. The correct answer was spot the robot, as you guys all saw. is now being used to implement social distancing in parks. So by technicality, Nicky is the winner this round. So this is one of the robots that was developed by Boston Dynamics. You guys may have seen viral videos of this crazy robot opening doors, hauling a truck, and even dancing to Bruno Mars. This is a 2-week pilot that they ran with the government of Singapore just to test having it walk around public spaces and remind people to maintain social distancing. The real upside of this is it was able to reduce manpower required for park patrols, and also, of course, minimizing physical contact among staff and people walking throughout the park. This is actually like an interesting use case where you could see a robot like this being used. You know, when they showed him opening the doors, all I could think of was murder. With this, it's like, oh, this is nice. He's gonna walk around and tell people to mind their distance.
It's still murder for me at this point. I'm just waiting for it to flip out.
Nice. Great. Well, that's all we've got for today. Once again, this is where you can find everyone online after the show. And once more, all the headlines from today came from This Week in Creative Technology. 30 headlines each week into your inbox, ranging from current, emerging to future. And sign up at bit.ly/join Future Fridays. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining today. It was awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.